All children are special, and every child is unique. There are children who are born with special needs. But what is so encouraging is that there are institutions and people who can help enable these children to have as bright a future as any others. On today's episode, we speak to an incredible young girl with special needs and her amazingly supportive family.
We've been able to be a good family, a happy family, and that's only because we both accepted it.
We also go into the Aditya Birla Integrated School.
We do work with children who have learning disabilities, children who have high functioning autism, as well as those with developmental delays.
And my wonderful experience walking the ramp with the kids from the SPJ Sadhana School. We also speak to the wonderfully inspirational single mother of her autistic son on how she brings him up to be the star he is.
Some parents have been extremely accommodating and some have been extremely difficult to deal with.
Kiara Rava Gupta is a young girl with cerebral palsy, but that has never held her back. She's always had the incredible support of her wonderful parents and little brother who've encouraged her to achieve some amazing things.
Kiara has cerebral palsy. It's a condition that a few million children in the world unfortunately have. It sounds a lot more scary than it actually is. You can do a lot of the good stuff if your attitude is right, and if you sort of work with your child as you would with any other child who just needs a little more attention and perhaps a lot more love.
Kiara's journey has been a long and hard-fought one, but she has made it so easy for us to be her parents. She has been hardworking, patient, positive, smiling, willing to do whatever we ask of her. She has never, fought us on anything, accommodated us, did whatever we asked of her.
What she teaches us is a lot more than we can ever teach her.
She is really our proudest possession.
You guys make it look so easy and so amazing. And I know it's not all hunky-dory. There are, of course, amazing positives and pros, but there are also some challenges, as you had mentioned. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges you face?
I can't say the road has always been easy. We've had our share of hurdles. But if I had to look at the largest obstacle that we faced here in India, it's been the level of awareness that people have. Most people, even educated, don't even know what cerebral palsy means. Yeah. There are a lot of well-intentioned people, but they tend to be insensitive. So they will see her and they would say, this was when she was, in her growing years, what happened to her? How did it happen? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Did you do this when you were pregnant? Did you go under a bridge? Did you not do this? Did you not do that? And initially it was a little painful, but then you realize that this is part of our culture. We lack the sensitivity to the special needs population, and perhaps I would have too if I hadn't been in that situation. Now we've learned to, because we're so proud of her, and when you're proud of something, you don't shy away from any question. So because we're so proud of her, we have learned what to say, how to say. Another challenge that we face is infrastructure in Bombay, India, wherever we go. Whether it's at airports, whether to go to a park or to go to a public space or to go to restaurants, it's legally mandated to have ramps, and they just don't have it. I don't know how, or elevators for that matter. I don't know how the rest of the population manages.
Actually, there's a provision in the law that for handicapped or special needs or the wheelchair population, and where ramps have to be provided, accessibility is a must. Right. And it is just not followed. It's almost like it doesn't matter. People just get away with it. That is something which is painful.
So is there any message you would like to give to any other parents who have children with special needs, or even just generally about awareness and perhaps sensitizing society to this?
I think I think our family's pillar has always been Atul. We've been able to come out of this and do what we need to do because we've been able to be a good family, a happy family, and that's only because we both accepted it, not just me that's accepted it. He's accepted it, and we have to make the most of what we have and enjoy every moment of it.
I think the turning point for her and for all of us is when we had this little one.
Yes, I was going to say,
Because-
he must be the best therapy.
Yeah, it just sort of added this sort of brightness to the situation, made her want to be better,
Yes.
and made all of us want to be better for each other.
Thank you so much. That was really, really lovely. Thank you.
Our child psychiatrist, Dr. Ziraq Marker, is also the CEO of the Aditya Birla Integrated School, which specializes in integrating children with special needs and learning disabilities. We spoke to him, some of the teachers, and the chairperson and founder, Mrs. Neerja Birla, about their teaching methods.
The Aditya Birla Integrated School, by its name, we believe in integration, which means we take in children who have various learning abilities and we try and give them curriculum that is age appropriate, relevant, as well as keeping in mind what other children are doing in regular schools. We do work with children who have learning disabilities, children who have high functioning autism, as well as those with developmental delays. We give them therapeutic intervention. Children have speech therapy, occupational therapy, remediation, and a whole host of co-curricular activities during school hours.
Dimple, dimple, dot, dot. Say it again.
Little red dots.
Dimple, dimple. See, look at Didi. Dimple,
Little
dimple, dot.
dot.
So many students come to us completely dejected, low in self-confidence, low in self-esteem. Of course, all because they have sometimes an underlying learning difficulty which has not been, caught on or diagnosed on time.
Children here do a board exam finally in grade 10, and having said that, with their learning problems and their lags, we have to build a curriculum that is competitive as well as child-friendly.
We learn from these kids because when they come here, they adapt so fast, they pick up things so quickly, and they are so amicable to change. And I think in the end of the day, you don't really care about what ranking they hold or whether they got a gold or a silver medal. You want your kid to eventually just be happy. When a kid feels happy, then that is a success story for me, for any child.
Whether you have a regular child or a special needs child, it doesn't matter because everybody can do something. It's just up to us as parents and as educators to find what that something is. And once you help a child find it, the sky's the limit.
And today we're with the very beautiful Neerja Birla, who of course needs no introduction, but here now as the founder of the Aditya Birla Integrated School and the chairperson. I'm so happy to have you on the show. Thank you so much, Neerja.
Thanks so much, Tara, for inviting me. Pleasure to be here.
So how did you come up with the concept of the school, or how did you get involved, and how did it all happen?
Being a mom of 3 kids and being very involved in their growing up and all their school years, always came across situations and stories of how, some children not being able to cope with class, regular mainstream class, were always asked to, step aside, move out of class and have some remedial classes.
Right.
And, most of the times the children carried that stigma.
Yeah.
And so did the parents, because they were not really, open about it and were not willing to talk about it, and understandably so. And that's when I thought that eventually I would like to start a school which would be for children with special needs.
Yeah.
So that they're not marginalized, one.
Absolutely.
And secondly, to give them an experience which is like a mainstream school.
Do you find that society at large, and again, one can't generalize, but when you have had your kids come to the school, and do you ever feel that you feel like literally just stepping out and telling people, listen, don't look at them different? Do you ever have that feeling? Is it something
Absolutely. In fact, even when we set the school up and, people were wanting to come to see the school, and they thought that the children will look different. So they told me that, the children don't look different at all. So I said, yeah, they are not different. I mean, it's just that They just need a different way of instruction.
And what I think is so wonderful is that you are actually doing this for society at large, which I think is also very inspirational, and it kind of gives us all the sense of how one should do what they
Right.
can to share the language of love and,
Absolutely.
not just limited to our own little families and our own world. So I think that's also very inspirational.
I guess being a parent, one always went through concerns that, is my child being able to cope with school?
Yeah.
Or is there any reason for why he's not being able to cope? Do I need to do things differently?
Yeah.
So one has sort of gone through those thought processes.
Yes.
I think being a parent, and especially hands-on, I think it's normal for all of us to kind of look at those and question these kind of progressions in the child.
Once again, superb job. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Anything you'd like to say to parents out there on what your thoughts are just on the whole concept of special needs, integration?
Each one of our kids is extremely special. We love them all dearly. Give them what they want. Give them a platform to flourish. And let's not try to fit square pegs into round holes. Yeah. Every child is different. Every child needs a different kind of environment to flourish. And I think every child deserves to have an environment in which he can flourish. So let's give it to them. And for the teachers, I guess it's the same thing, because teachers, parents and children, I think it's a three-way communication. It's a very close community, and all three need to be working together in order to get the best out of the children. I think our world revolves around the children. Let's give them the very best.
Thank you so much.
Thank
really
you so
a
much,
pleasure
Rava.
having you on.
Coming up, I walk the ramp with some of the wonderful kids from SPJ Sadhana School. And an inspirational story of how a single mother balances her life, bringing up her autistic son and also being a full marathon runner.
Some parents have been extremely accommodating and some have been extremely difficult to deal with.
After becoming a mom, I find I'm even more passionate about anything to do with kids. So when I was invited to take part in a fashion show organized by the SPJ Sadhana School, I was thrilled to walk the ramp with the highly talented children with special needs. It's wonderful to see that these children are in a school that has the right infrastructure, sensibilities, and understanding to enable them to shine as the stars they are. And more power to the incredible parents who have recognized and understood how to give their children these opportunities. A single mom to her autistic son, and a champion marathon runner, Sayuri Dalvi has overcome several challenges and become an inspiration for anyone who hears her story.
Before we get into everything, autism is something I personally don't know much about, and I'd like you to shed some light on what exactly that is.
Autism is a social disorder. It's a huge spectrum and every child falls on it in a different way.
Right.
So today if I try and compare Vihan with another child who has autism, they are going to be completely different. So one thing in mind every mother or every parent has to keep is they should stop comparing. They should not take notes from anybody else
Right.
and try and work that with your child.
Sure.
It's always better to consult somebody, a psychologist or a therapist who deals with autism.
So because the condition is such, how did you actually detect it, or what were the warning signs that alerted you to his condition?
Until 6 months, he was a smiling, laughing child.
Right.
Even the pediatrician said all his milestones were great.
Right.
But by the time he turned around 9 months, my parents started pointing out that the child is not talking. Actually, I had not even heard a single word from his mouth coming. He used to play, but that used to be like
Quiet.
Right. By the time he was coming closer to his first birthday, he had become a very difficult child. He used to throw all food he used to have, and he used to put it in his mouth and just swallow. So he used to throw almost every meal I used to feed him.
Oh dear.
There was no talk at all. At one point, I also noticed that he had lost eye contact. Like I'm talking to you and I'm looking into your eyes,
But
he wouldn't look into my eyes for anything. But that was there until some 6-7 months, but it started deteriorating.
Regressing.
It started regressing.
Yes, I've read this about autism that tends to happen. So I
That
think
happens.
a lot
In
of
fact, those
parents
are-
don't acknowledge it in the beginning because they
Yes.
remember that the baby did look in my eyes and did
They
say
start
something.
thinking it. They start thinking of it as a phase, and the child will outgrow it. But it is not so. It is just a way of telling yourself, yes, the child will be okay. But if you see these early signs, you immediately have to go and consult with someone. Also, one more sign, which is a warning sign, is they stop responding to their names.
Okay.
Like I'm standing here and I was calling out to my son by his name. He used to behave, he's deaf.
Did you have good medical and psychological help? Did you have somebody who you could turn to?
Initially, no. Also because I was in a denial, I thought I will wait for another month or let his first birthday pass or let him just start walking properly. Or maybe tomorrow he'll eat better and he'll not puke out his meal. So I just let it go, and then finally my parents put their foot down. I said, if you're, and they told me, if you're not doing it, we are picking up the baby and taking him. So that is when he got diagnosed. Like I think he was around 22 months, a little before his second birthday, but I had actually wasted a lot of time. But then today when I notice some kids, there are kids who are getting diagnosed at the age 3 and 4, which is very late. So waiting is not the right thing to do. If you see that there's some problem, or if you think there's the slightest thing which doesn't sound normal or doesn't look appropriate, you have to go and find some help. There have been situations in birthday parties when he has put me into a really embarrassing situation. Some parents have been extremely accommodating and some have been extremely difficult to deal with.
Frankly, what I've realized is each person, everyone is different, everyone has their own way, but there's so much we can learn from each other and share.
Yes.
And I think for a lot of people who don't have the kind of awareness to know that, there's nothing wrong. If God forbid you find that a child has an issue, you can get help.
You can.
And if you treat it in time, they can actually be completely integrated into regular society.
That is what my point is. If you find out early and if you try and help the child in the early stages, because your neurological system is so delicate and tender in that particular age that it can be molded and things can be changed drastically. There are kids who have been diagnosed in the very early stages and they have come to a point where they are going to an inclusive school and interacting with routine kids, and sometimes you can't make out unless you have been told that yes, this child has this trait.
So tell us about the school Vihan goes to.
I'll start with where Vihan went to earlier.
Yeah.
Because I used to live in Mahim earlier. He was going to a school in Bandra, which was an inclusive school, and they had this policy of having 5 to 6 kids in each batch who have special needs, different needs.
Yeah.
So Vihan was going to the school and he was there for around 3 years. But I noticed he wasn't doing well at all. Because he couldn't handle the pressure, his frustration levels were going up and there used to be subsequent tantrums.
Yeah.
So his agitation levels were also going high along with mine.
Right.
So I realized that this school for education is not right. Though the school is very nice and they take a lot of efforts, he needs something else where education is given in some other direction which is convenient for him and for which he enjoys that kind of school.
Sure.
So while this school, I was contemplating to get him out of the school and trying to get which school he should go to. A friend mentioned about Gateway School of Mumbai and it's going wonderful. Vihan started the school in 2012. So this is his 3rd academic year in the school. And from Vihan, in that earlier school where he used to actually, I used to dress him up for school against his wishes, and I used to push him to school, and the crying spells and the tantrums when he used to come back, to now Vihan going to Gateway School. Like I'll give you an example, like when sometimes he's just under the weather and I tell him, Vihan, don't go to school today, and he gets very anxious. No, I have to go to school. I want to go to school.
How sweet.
He's that, like he enjoys going to school.
That's lovely. That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
And I have to give you a huge amount of credit because I think for any parent, it's obviously extremely tough.
It was difficult. I used to take him to the garden or to the park and I used to see some mothers with kids and I used to think, why don't I have such a smart kid? Or
but he is smart in his own way. He's very smart.
Or why I am in this situation? Why is that dumb mother not in that situation as mine? I have done all that kind of talking to myself when I have taken him to places or to birthday parties, or there have been situations in birthday parties when he has put me into a really embarrassing situation, and then
but he can't help that.
And he can't help that.
He can't help that.
He can't help. He has been struggling. I used to know, but then there were some parents. Some parents have been extremely accommodating and some have been extremely difficult to deal with.
Really?
Yes, this as well.
And you've done all this as a single mom.
Yes.
So that's another huge thing. Because generally, I guess, having the support of your partner to kind of turn to when things are tough and say, you know,
Yes.
having a terrible day. How has that been? How have you managed like that? Do you think it's worked well? Is your husband supportive? How does it work?
We got separated 3 years ago, but he helps a lot. When we decided to go our separate ways, we decided that I will stop working, completely focus as a full-time mother to look around Vihan's emotional and other needs, give him complete time, be a hands-on mother, and he will look after the other financial part where
That's
money is
amazing.
concerned.
That's wonderful that he's
Yes.
been supportive like
Yes.
that, and that you have the, you know, the ability to be with Vihan,
Yes.
because I think, God forbid, there are lots of people who perhaps can't, and
Yes.
they don't have that support. So that's super.
Yes.
But really, Sayuri, your story is incredible.
Thank you.
I've been so thrilled to have you here,
Thank you.
and I know Vihan is an amazing guy, and I really can't wait to meet him. It's really been a pleasure having you, and you really are a superstar. Thank you. After interacting with these wonderful people, I'm even more convinced that every child is unique and gifted in their own way. By the way, did you know several extremely successful people and geniuses like Albert Einstein, Agatha Christie, even Steve Jobs had learning disabilities during their childhood? Next week, a powwow with some wonderful new moms on what they are going through and various myths and superstitions. A look at our story when I was pregnant and when Zen and Kai were newborns and how we felt. A chat with Avantika Malik on being a mom and with Vandana Malik on being a grandmom. And a candid chat with Mandira Bedi on her experiences as a new mom and what she went through when she faced some postpartum depression.
First 25 days, I cried a lot.
Really?
I went through a lot of postpartum depression. It was not easy.
Click here to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do keep interacting with me on our social media platforms.